Hey, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since I've made a video. My schedule has just been a little bit busy and crazy. I haven't had time to make videos and edit, but I wanted to make this video hopefully all in one take so I don't have to do any editing. But I recently picked up this David Mazzucchelli Daredevil Artisan edition. So I wound up making a video on the artist's edition of this book probably a couple of years ago at this point for my Patreon channel. And I no longer have access to that book, but I just recently picked up the Artisan edition, Artisan. It's pretty much like a smaller version of the same exact thing that an artist edition is. So if you're not familiar, an artist edition is generally an 11 by 17 book that is the exact size of the original art that the artist created the pages on. And the pages inside are black and white photographs of the pages rather than like cleaned up scans. So you're not getting just a black and white version of the artwork. You're getting all the white out, the notes and the margins, all that stuff. It's really the closest thing to seeing the original art. Artist editions are awesome. Artisan editions are second best. It's the exact same content. It's just a little bit smaller. So I don't know the exact size of this, but it's not quite 11 by 17, and it's soft cover instead of hardcover. That's pretty much it. So the content is the same. It just doesn't have perhaps the same presence that an artist edition has. But I'm so glad to have some version of this in my collection now, just because, I don't know, I was looking at this last night. It just came in, and I had seen this before, and I'm familiar with David Mazzucchelli's run on Daredevil. But there's something about like looking at this art, and you'll see, I'm not going to go page by page, just because if you don't have it, I'd recommend picking it up if this is something that you're interested in. But it just kind of actually gets better and better as it goes on. David Mazzucchelli's art, you could see here, like it really starts to like evolve. I hope this stays in focus, just because there's some really great detail, really great panels. It's hard to like sort of communicate, verbalize like why or what's so great about it, but for lack of a better term, it feels like sounds obvious, but it feels like this work is drawn. Like you can see an artist's hand in all of these panels. There's something about, I think at this point, especially in comics history, there's just something about art that was pre-digital, pre-computer, and the lack of, I think it was like the lack of shortcuts and the lack of digital presets and all that kind of stuff. It sort of forces you to get really, really creative. And you can just see like the type of shots that he sets up here. He really goes in with like white paint and zip-tone and all kinds of stuff just to like create these effects. Like that zip-tone over there, then there's white paint on top of it, and he creates these like beautiful, beautiful moods just with black and white. Look at that panel. Like that's just a standalone, beautiful illustration. That was one of the things that I got out of looking at this last night, was that you could isolate any one of these panels, and they're just really, really beautiful. And then of course, when you put it all together, you understand how great David Mazzucchelli is as a storyteller, a visual storyteller. The shots that he chooses, it never seems like he goes for the shot that's the easiest. He picks some pretty funky angles sometimes, and he really, really makes it work. Also, it's funny, there's so many shots of rotary phones. I mean, this was the 80s. So this was obviously pre-cell phone and probably pre whatever you call the phone that came after the rotary phone, but like the handheld. But like little details like that phone is just really well drawn. That pot, the stove, there's a lot of like care and attention that goes into like these little details like this that, of course, when a reader is reading it, they're going to look at this panel and this panel for like a half a second and just keep moving. And that's exactly what you want them to do. You don't want them to slow down and go, is that a stove or is that a car, or is that a phone, or is that a gun, something like that. So you want to keep them in the story. Everything here is obviously a comic book, but it's drawn so believably, especially in the world. It's consistent with the world that he's creating aesthetically. Like, look at that little like flashback scene. Let's see if I can get in focus. So nice. Like, the background here is just made up of, it looks like a zipatone, just to give a suggestion of the books and stuff like that. Feels like this stuff was created on a desk. I don't know. I never saw David Mazzucchelli's workspace, but when I see this work, I picture it created on a desk that has all kinds of tools and pens and brushes and white paints and sheets of zipatone and rulers and templates and all this kind of stuff. Like, he's using whatever he has at his disposal to tell this story visually and create these moods. And story-wise, this Daredevil story is really intense. It's written by Frank Miller. And as the story goes on, it's like Matt Murdock, look at this cover. Look at that face. I mean, that's a cover right there. Story-wise, Matt Murdock goes through a lot of stuff in this story, and the acting on Dave Mazzucchelli's part is really, really incredible. He uses body language here in these scenes to really get across a lot of like the anguish that Matt Murdock is going through. Also, as the series goes on, his line gets like cruder and cruder. And part of that might have been that he was feeling the deadline crunch. But I think also, like, just thematically, it was really, creating a certain kind of emotion to show that there's like a lot of anguish and pain going on in Matt Murdock's life. Look, I mean, this panel right here, though, so good. It's not overly rendered. There's not a lot of detail, but everything there is communicated so well. I could literally flip through this book every day and just get juiced up and want to make comics, and really just want to like pick up a pencil and pen and just start drawing. Look at this, so great. Also, like, one of the things I was thinking about last night, again, I'm going to try to not go every page by page just because I don't want to give everything away. But one of the things I was thinking about last night is, like, for instance, the shot before of like that gun or the stovetop or all the buildings and the cars and stuff like that. This is pre-Google, pre-internet. So he was either, collecting magazine clippings or just got really good at memorizing certain things. But like, that's a really believable hospital scene, and that's all you need. Whereas I feel like now with everything that we have, some artists maybe overly reference stuff, and it kind of deadens the art sometimes. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. I think when you don't have access to that stuff, you're forced to get creative, and the more creative you get with it, sometimes you get sort of like, I don't know, I think it's more of like an emotional response. Like, look at this panel right here. That's so beautiful, amazing. And there's no like, fancy perspective grids or anything like that, or like 3D, models that he had to build. He just drew that, and there's like a real like tactile feel to it. This is cool to see too. When you have these photographs of the actual original art, you could see that, like, for instance, this panel right here, if I could focus it. Hold on a second. Okay, having a hard time focusing here. This panel right here is like just cut and pasted. For whatever reason, maybe he just pasted something on top of it. It wasn't working on the board. But I love seeing stuff like that. Like, again, it just feels like an artist worked on this thing. You could really see like the artist's hand through all these pages. And a shot like this, look at this panel right here. That's so great. It's an awesome cover. Try to pan out a little bit. It's hard to keep this in focus, but trying my best. For instance, like, there's some scenes here and some panels here where it starts to get really, look at that. It's like really crudely drawn, almost like gets real cartoony. But and it goes back and forth between something that's a little bit more controlled and then this very expressionist, cartoony, almost underground kind of feel to it. And what it does is it creates like an emotional response. And that's like one of the things as comic artists that we have at our disposal, is like the way we put our lines down is a storytelling device in and of itself. So it's the shots you pick, the panel pacing, but then also the way you draw certain things can evoke a certain emotion in the reader. And I think this kind of stuff right here is a really great example of that. Some of these shots are so amazing. Look at that. So much like emotion and power in this stuff. And it's just a great example of an artist. Doesn't matter whether he's a comic artist, illustrator, fine artist, whatever. It's just great to see someone who looks like they love to draw. Like this stuff just, it looks like someone who has a really great understanding of anatomy and perspective and inking and all that kind of stuff. But beyond all that, it looks like someone who's having a really good time just putting all these lines down. And I think that gets across to not only the artist looking at it, but even the average reader. I think it just comes through in the story. So yeah, I don't want this video to go super long. Look at this shot right here. Wow. Crazy. It's beautiful. The other thing is, like, if I could zoom in over here, like, look at how scratchy these buildings are in the back. You don't look at that, though, for me at least, like, I don't look at that and go, oh, that looks like he doesn't care or he doesn't know how to draw buildings. You get the whole idea of that cityscape back there, and it doesn't take away from this, what he wants you to be looking at. And it's just so nice to see those like really just scratched out lines. So cool. And then there's something like this, which is a little bit more tighter. David Mazzucchelli, if you're not familiar, is like one of the best comic book artists out there. If you look at this early work he did on Daredevil versus later on, he did a comic adaptation of the novel City of Glass. It literally looks like two different people. He's an incredibly versatile artist, and he utilizes style as a storytelling device. So if the story calls for it, he'll draw in a completely different style. And that's one of the things that I really admire about his work. I made a video about all his various different styles. I'll try to link it below or somewhere in this video if you're interested. But yeah, I'm gonna probably close up this book just because I think we looked at a bunch of it, but check it out. This is awesome. I just want to kind of show off this book. I'm going to keep this on my coffee table. It's going to be something that I'm going to be looking at very regularly just to get all like inspired and stuff like that. Look at this shot right here. That's so nice. Like if you've ever been to Rockefeller Center during Christmas time, that's it right there. Like just in one panel. And there's, you know, white paint and white silhouette back there. It's just so nice. So much life, and I love it. There's some zip tone back here. Really, really cool. Anyway, I could go on for days about this stuff. Again, I'll link that other video about David Mazzucchelli's work somewhere in this video or in the description below. So anyway, it's good to make a video again. Good to check in with all of you. Comments and all that kind of stuff if you have them. And yeah, I would like to say stay tuned for more videos, but my schedule's been crazy. I hope to do more. I did order a bunch of other books for my coffee table. So maybe if you're interested in this video, I could do more of those. Let me know. Cool. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.